presentation. I'm Betsy Scott with the Housing Innovation Alliance. I run programming and engagement. I'm excited to kick off today's event, which is a half-day focus on design and customer experience. Now that we've been talking about COVID, we've been talking about digitization of a lot of things, has really accelerated how people are looking differently about design and the customer experience, communications, the language that we use, the prop tech that we use to engage people, and really what their expectations are for their homes and communities has changed quite a bit. So we wanted to stop and focus on that for a couple of hours this afternoon. So here you see everyone who's going to be joining you today as an expert, as well as myself and Natalie, who's up in the right-hand corner, who will be facilitating the sessions today. The Alliance at its core is focused on attainable middle-income single-family housing. We also do stretch into multifamily and build for rent. We like to say our audience possesses an active doer mindset. So really, they're the lead people in the industry who are trying to do things better, who are trying to deliver better product, being more effective businesses. So we've shaped our agenda and the session today and the other activities that we do as an organization to support growth from that perspective and innovation in people's businesses. So we look at next generation leaders, of whom we've got several on the line today as experts, current and past leaders, middle management through C-level. So excited to have everybody join us. You'll see this today live. Hopefully you can attend more than one session. We'll also be sharing archives and snippets on our website. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without the support of our partners that you see here. Grateful for everything that our partners do, sharing their expertise, sharing connections with great people that we should bring and align within our community, and then also kind of underwriting us in PBS fashion to keep us moving and make it possible for us to do events like this. So thank you to our partners who are online today and those who will be watching this later as well. So why are we here today? Talked about this a little bit. We want to talk about flexibility and adaptability in both design and the customer experience, with the end in mind to say, how can we deliver greater livability and attainability through design and improve the customer experience both before and after the sale? So we've got several experts today to focus on that. We've got the event really in 3 sessions. The first 2 will all be expert snapshot and Q&A focused. The one that we're about to enter into will be focused on prop tech and consumer engagement specifically. During those sessions, it will be more of a webinar format. And then the last one today is going to be a meeting format. So if you're able to join us on the phone for the final session at 2:15 Eastern today, it will actually fully start at 2:30. You can join the meeting link and actually turn your video and audio on as we have and actually be part of our panel for that session. So during this first session, you'll see this pop up, and this is when we will start to share questions, some questions that we have for the panels ourselves, as well as your ability to ask questions as attendees. And then this is really kind of the approach for that later session today, the working group, where you can bring ideas, thoughts, and questions to the table yourselves as well. The main way to provide input and participate in this first session is to enter questions and comments in the chat function. Make sure that you change the drop-down menu so that it says everyone. We find this really valuable. We often have a lot of conversation going on in the chat function itself. But if you can change it to everyone, then everyone, including the panel and other attendees, will be able to see what you're asking. They might have thoughts on it as well. So without further ado, we're going to get into this first session, which focuses on prop tech and consumer engagement, some really exciting things that Sara and Bobby are doing in this space. But before we get to that, I will introduce Blair and she'll introduce both of them, and then we'll move into the first session. So Blair is a lead designer specializing in indoor environments at Vera Iconica Architecture. Now, you may or may not have heard of that company before, but I'm sure many of you have heard of the Witt House at Tavistock Development. And Blair was an integral part of the wellness kitchen there. So they're looking at sustainability from multiple angles: personal health, physical health, mental health, in design within the homes and at the community level. So she has a vested interest in hearing what Sara has to say about, and Bobby has to say about some of the things that they're seeing and attitudes that they're seeing from consumer searches online. So I'll turn the floor now over to Blair to introduce Bobby and Sara.
Yes, thank you, Betsy. And thank you, Bobby and Sara, for being here with us today, as well as all of our attendees. I'll give you guys a brief introduction to both Sara and Bobby. So Sara Maffey is the head of industry relations at Local Logic, a location intelligence company where Sara combines her passions for real estate development and placemaking with data analytics and prop tech. She previously served as the managing director of placemaking and board member for commercial real estate services and advisory firm Transwestern. And Bobby Bryant, he is the founder and CEO of Ask DOS, and he's been in real estate for over 20 years, having started in the mortgage business. He's developing an Alexa-type solution built into property search and transactional platform to empower realtors and consumers 24/7. We're really excited to hear what you both have to say today, and let's get going. So Sara.
Oh, thanks for having me. Okay, so a little bit about Local Logic. We can go to the next slide. So we closed our Series A last fall, and it's been a really big boost to us. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but it was led by groups like Shadow Ventures and Groundbreak Ventures. We've been a part of NARReach Canada, and that's added a lot of value. Some of our early customers and partners have been groups like Zillow, Remax, Redfin. We just announced a big partnership with CoreLogic, Centris in Canada. So great there. We can go to the next one. Today, I'm going to focus a lot more on that first vertical there, our web tools. Those are really meant to serve MLSs, portals, brokers. So we'll go into that quite a bit more, but I wanted to just touch on other things that we have available. I think our APIs are also very helpful. We make a lot of our insights available through APIs. We also have an analytics platform, which has been a big push since our Series A. That is originally designed to work with real estate developers and investors, especially on the multifamily side. If we could go to the next slide, I'll give it an example of something in that. Oh, maybe it's the one after that, but I'll go into this. So the backbone of all of our products are really our location scores. What Local Logic does is we use data to actually quantify the feeling of what's happening around a site, whether that's a home or maybe an apartment building, an office building. It's about understanding quantitatively and objectively what a neighborhood feels like, what an area feels like. So these location scores I think of as sort of all those different pieces that you're taking in when you're actually standing in person at a site. We were founded by urban planners, so our walk score is a little different from the one that you might be used to. It's actually thinking about accessibility, the pleasantness of a walk, and that kind of mindset goes into all of our scores. You know, how accessible is that coffee shop? Is it, it might be close, but I might have to cross a 4-lane highway to get there, for example, which is not actually very accessible or pleasant. So we have a variety of different ways of quantifying transportation. We've got our services, things like grocery stores that we know are super important to home buyers, access to different levels of schooling and retail, and then our character scores, which are really my favorite. When I was on the commercial real estate side, I loved this, the ability to actually use data to quantify things that you might think of as being a little more subjective or decided through gut feel. So vibrancy is one of my favorites on this side. We're looking at cultural things to do nearby a site, as well as, you know, restaurants, bars. Do things stay open a little bit later? Does everything close at 6? And depending on what kind of lifestyle you're looking for, you know, that might be good or bad that something's open later. So anyway, just being able to gather all of that information very easily from a variety of uses is helpful. I think the next slide. So I mentioned our data analytics platform, and while there's a lot of cool stuff going on in there, I think maybe for this crowd, one thing I just wanted to call out was that we have these one-click reports, which in my prior life, I've spent many hours, weeks creating market studies, looking for retail around a site, creating these decks to share with stakeholders. And we have the ability to do that in less than a minute for any site in the US and Canada, which I think is super cool. This is just kind of calling out, but it's giving all of that data I just talked about, all our location scores on those different characteristics, going into actual market rates for apartments, single family homes, duplexes, triplexes, what those are renting for, what those are actually transacting for, and then also going into demographic information. Next slide, please. Oh, this is our video. If we could just watch this, it's a real quick one.
Okay, I'm going to play this for you now. I had to unmute. If you hear dogs in the background, my apologies.
Local Logic provides tools that helps your consumers understand location in seconds. You can find us on national sites providing visual tools so a consumer can easily understand how an area changes depends on their lifestyle to find a home that matches their needs. Or we provide SEO content that national portals and regional brokers are using to drive top-level traffic. Once you're working with us, you can embed our data anywhere on your site to create really rich, personalized experiences that help a consumer understand what's around a home in seconds. No more messy maps, no more random information. It's white label, it's customizable, and regardless of where you are in the US or Canada, our data can work for you. We even have personalization tools so a consumer can understand which home best matches their needs based on the things that they're shopping for. So if you want to learn more, go to locallogic.co or just reply to this email. All the information is here, or our team will be thrilled to talk to you. Talk soon.
So no email, but you can certainly email me. That would be totally fine.
Local Logic.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I think that just kind of hits on, there's tools to be able to allow consumers to actually create a custom map, to actually sort through all of the listings that come back based on their own personal lifestyle preferences, which we know that that's really an important part of the process. I just put up some stats from the 2020 profile of home buyers and sellers that I think is important to this conversation, because we're seeing that 97% of home buyers are actually using the internet to search for homes. And that's in the last year. Obviously, a lot of us are doing a lot more online lately. 43% are looking at properties as a first step. And as part of that, people are actually ruling out options before they actually go out there and start to visit homes. So I think understanding all of those things, like, is this going to be near places where I can grab dinner? Is this going to be near a grocery store up front, is really important in that decision-making process. Next slide. So, these are pretty quick, but just getting that engagement and grabbing people's eye right away, and allowing them to sort of make personal decisions at any time of day, really driven on their own schedule and by what they're looking for. The next slide, please. I think it's my last one. And so this is just an idea. We have a lot of stats on what our natural language text can do to increase SEO. We've got stats on actual conversion increases based on having these tools on the portals. So, happy to go into that more on an individual basis as follow-up. And I think that's it. I think my last slide is just my thank you.
Thank you, Sara. That was really amazing. I think it's such incredible, quality of life data points that you add to the whole customer experience that are, it's really vital to choosing your next home. So exciting. And Bobby, let's hear what you're up to with DOS, huh?
Yeah. Thank you. And by the way, Sara, thank you so much for making my pitch a lot easier. I tell you guys, my team and I were big fans of Local Logic. We use Local Logic, and a great team and company. So I promise I wasn't paid for that, but they're just that awesome.
He wasn't, but thank you.
But yeah, so DOS is a voice activated digital real estate marketplace. We felt like that there was a need to try to make real estate search more than search, to go beyond the box, to go beyond these basic standard search filters, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to work with Local Logic, is that they had unique data sets that Sarah's exactly right, that it's one thing that the current platforms are, showing us how to search for a structure. We can easily go search for 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, a certain square footage. And oh, by the way, the schools that are zoned to this house is right here. We wanted to do more than that. So our team took the approach of going with an intelligent user interface. And when you start building an intelligent user interface, different from a lot of our current competitors, they use very little to no artificial intelligence. We wanted to create a platform that best mobilized just about everything that AI had to offer, and go deeper and wider with the consumer, by allowing them to, or empowering them rather, to be able to speak, text, or type any question about any property, in a pursuit of centralizing, democratizing, and humanizing the way we, look for real estate, and to be able to ask for advice and tips. A lot of people don't like reading as much anymore. Me being an ex-school teacher, I'm an avid reader, but most people don't like to read. They listen to, books. They listen to their books. They watch video now. So kind of the same thing when it comes to advice and tips. We noticed that when our competitors are going to give you these long, lengthy articles that you have to read, that you have to decipher and have the discernment about, what you should take away from it. You may be going to Google and you're, typing in a query. It tells you you have a million results. Who and what should you believe? Mortgage questions, this, that, and the other. How can we make this experience more intuitive? And so we wanted to be able to, layer infinite amounts of data that went beyond what we realized during our research was that most of the popular search sites, all give or take, are white labels of each other. And they show approximately about 45% of the available data that's out there. But like Sara mentioned, what about, the characters in quiet streets and vibrant areas? People are now, they will buy a house based on a pet, different from, years ago, right? It's like Fluffy, and Fido has to like this house, right? So lifestyle stuff, when we start talking about, schools, and then how do we wrap this information around an intelligent, assistant that will allow me to say something like, hey, DOS, show me the houses in Atlanta, Georgia, or anywhere in the country for that matter, that is between $400,000 and $500,000, with white cabinets, dark floors. Zoned to this school. I'm able to talk my features out and what I'm looking for near the beach, right? Close to that, DOS, can you tell me the difference between an FHA and a VA loan? How much would I have to put down? Is it a good time to buy? These questions that I want to know right now. And I want to get a how can we say it? Industry high standard response, not from maybe a person that information could be different from agent to agent. How can we take an industry best standard response and provide that to consumers in real time? And that's what we saw ourselves wanting to accomplish with DOS. But in addition to that, when you think about our competitors, they're purely just search engines, right? Once you find your home, other than maybe wanting to spy on your neighbor's value, why would you go back, right, to our competitors? Why would you go back to visit them? So DOS wanted to address the entire life cycle of home ownership. You know what? That 8 to 12 years, average of 10, that the consumer, the homeowner, is going to live in that property. Thank you so much. That's going to live in that property. How can I best serve my home? You know, what can DOS help me out with? Our goal is to live up to the promise of technology, which is to save everybody time and money, right? And so if I could say something like, and this is a later phase of DOS, but if I could inquire DOS, can you put me in contact with a roofer? I need to get quotes on getting my roof installed. You know what? Oh my gosh, my water heater is broken right now. Can you send somebody over? You know, I can't tell you how many times I go to Facebook and I see somebody post a question. Hey, can somebody give me a recommendation for a plumber? Can somebody give me this? Or I got to go, again, have the discernment and go look through Yelp or whomever and read all this stuff. We're more and more getting to the point to where consumers want to trust the brand and that this marketplace is going to take care of me. And they're going to send somebody that's qualified and that has a good track record to give me great service at a fair price. And that's what we're looking at. Not only a search engine, but also a service dealing with the home servicing industry, and also that better automates the transaction. Go to the next slide. And so, yes, when we start talking about, again, that problem, and this is my last slide, but when we start talking about the real estate industry is a legacy industry. It's very, as we all know, a very antiquated, expensive, and fragmented industry. You know, so, and it historically has put the agent, which is important, by the way, the real estate agent at the center of that transaction. Unfortunately, my view is that the real estate industry is fundamentally the same it's been for over 113 years. You know, and now we're dealing with the average consumer is a millennial that's buying homes. And guys, they're different. They think different. They speak different. They want things different. They've changed a lot of industries, and you can either be willing to evolve with them, or you could resist them and unfortunately experience disruption, or you could disrupt yourself and move along, you know, with this largest, most diverse and educated generation in history. And that's, again, what we wanted to pay attention to. At DOS, we had to ask ourselves, what are the behaviors and characteristics and habits of today's buyers? What do they want? What are they asking for? And because I think the industry collectively has sort of ignored the technological advancements and kind of hoarded them for the advancements and efficiencies of the industry, but we haven't turned that around to the benefit of the consumer. So as a marketplace, we wanted to best serve both sides. You know, no different from the Ubers and Amazons and Airbnbs of the world. They created a marketplace that best served the host and the person who's going to stay in the property, best serve the rider and the driver, best service the seller and also the buyer of the retail products on Amazon. And we want to be one of the first that does that with real estate, truly serve the agent and also the consumer by identifying how they both have evolved over time. And so, and that's our pitch, and that's what we want to accomplish with. Oh, I did have one more slide. So yeah, again, you know, when we start talking about our competitive advantage, yes, voice activated interface, again, high tech. DOS is we take a multimodal approach when it comes to giving people an experience with data like they've never had before. We integrate, you know, with local logic and a myriad of other data providers to make sure that we provide this well-rounded experience and information for the consumer so they can make the best decision about, you know, the largest purchase most people make in their lives. And once again, we support the entire life cycle of home ownership. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bobby. That's also exciting. You know, I agree. The market is changing, you know, and like you said, disrupt, get ahead of it, be part of it, right?
Yep, exactly.
So thank you both. These are incredible presentations. And I know we've got probably some questions coming in from everybody. If you don't mind, I might kick you guys off with some questions that we've prepared. So today's consumers have many options for how they search for information about neighborhoods and potential places to live on the web. Your companies are relatively new in this space in comparison to others. So how are today's consumers and industry professionals finding local logic and finding DOS and putting them to use?
I'll go first. Our web tools have we've been around for about 6 years, and those are our original suite of products. So I think in Canada, we have about 90% market share, if not slightly more than that at this point, and we're rapidly growing in the US. So I think more often than not, we're starting to get that momentum and brand recognition because we are on so many portals where people are interacting with our data, whether they realize it or not. I'm sorry, remind me of what the question there was, like.
Yeah, how are today's consumers and the industry professionals finding local logic and, for Bobby, finding DOS?
Yeah.
In this changing landscape, so.
I think that we have that momentum going, I guess, is my point right now.
Nice. Bobby, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, for DOS, we are a consumer-facing solution, right? Marketplace. Right now, just in that development, we're building something that takes a lot of time. So we're currently right now in Austin, Dallas, and Houston, with plans to expand in other markets here within the next 60 days. And so we're going to be tackling, a market at a time throughout the country. And so for our agents, again, we being a marketplace, we really wanted to control that end to end. So we do take a dual approach, if you will. So we do have in-house realtors, that are ready to connect with the consumers that are, that are shopping, and we make that connection. If we are in a market where we don't have any personal DOS agents, if you will,
sure.
Then we enroll, partner agents. We work with partner agents to pass on those leads. And so over time, we'll get more aggressive with the marketing, right? But right now, our focus is the user experience and making sure that exactly how we see DOS to be designed and the experience that we want to give the end user. We're being very methodical with our rollout and our approach right now.
Incredible. Touching upon, you both mentioned the end user and how you're, I've used this term already, but disrupting the marketplace and providing a new service. So how have people's search patterns changed in light of COVID? What are people searching for? And have you seen a measurable jump in interest in health and wellness communities and the features that are included in such places?
I'll jump out on that one, Sara, maybe, if that's okay. What's interesting is that I think that especially states like Texas, a lot of people were in high density areas, right? A lot of people packed into a place. What I noticed is a lot of people started running from these high density areas and were in a pursuit of, I need more room and I need more space. And so we noticed that people were looking for more square footage, that they were looking for homes that had built-in amenities, and or they were willing to, they needed the space in order to build out those amenities. Like right now, it's a waiting time on building a pool. Like if you decided right now, I want to build a pool, you're on a wait list in Houston, right? And so being again, ideal with local logic and what they're developing is, do you want to be in that vibrant area? Do you want to be in a quiet area? And so people are now wanting to search different than they did before. And so I think the desire to be in areas that even from a geosocial, geo interest, that people are also, now that they can work and live anywhere, they're wanting to be by places that they really like doing. If I don't have to be in California and Silicon Valley because my job is making me be here and I can live anywhere, well, where is anywhere? And that's where I want to go, where I want to be. And so I think that there's a great migration in a bunch of different places, but based on the interests of that user now. And so with companies like Local Logic and others, we're able to now cater to that and help them find not only a home, but an area where they want that home to reside.
Yeah, I would just, gosh, you made me want to go on a whole nother direction from where I was going to go with that. But, I actually pulled the data before this so that I could actually tell you what we're seeing from a consumer search side. And it's super fascinating to visualize like basically what our experience has been during the pandemic. Like all of a sudden you see people really, really are concerned about being near a grocery store. And that makes sense because we're doing so much more cooking at home all of a sudden. You see a slight dip in people caring about being near transit. Not that it went completely away, but you're not worried about commuting at a certain point anymore if you're working from home more frequently, or you think that's going to continue in the future. Another thing that we saw was, while there was this spike in wanting to be near grocery stores, a few months after that, we started to see interest in being near restaurants creep back up. I think maybe because people were going to go pick up food. So I know I hit a wall where I was like, if I eat something that I made one more time, I'm going to go out of my mind. So can I order food near wherever I'm going to be living? And Bobby, you hit on it, like quiet noise levels, like people actually are really looking for that quiet score. I think part of that is you are spending so much more time at home. People are hyper aware of everything that's going on around their house. Are you really close to your neighbors? Can you hear their leaf blower all the time? I'm working from home. I'm recording podcasts, things like that. Like just the things you're considering are totally different. So those are just some of the highlights that we've seen in our data. The one thing I did want to point out though, like it's interesting when you use our heat mapping function, because I think that there has been, and this happened before the pandemic, but maybe an acceleration of considering secondary, tertiary cities and even like suburbs where there's still that sense of place. Like there's that little main street area, there's that vibrancy. Maybe you're not in a gateway city anymore, but you still care about your lifestyle. And so I think by being able to look at like vibrancy or being near restaurants, you can still see those hot spots. And what we found is that people actually end up looking like 50% further out geographically than maybe what they were originally considering, because you start to say, oh, I had no idea that area would match all the things that I actually cared about.
Not too far away.
Yeah. So, and maybe I could afford more space there now that I'm spending so much time at home. But the one thing I think that also goes along maybe with your original question is like the increase in caring about parks and access to parks.
The need for outdoor space.
Yeah. And it's something that, there might be a wait list for a pool, but I think what we're doing is quantifying the amenities around your property, the things that you don't have as much control over. So you really need to understand that going into that major investment decision. And it's just been interesting because, whether you're doing it from a home buying perspective, a home development perspective, or even like from an office perspective, people are definitely caring about options to be outside in park spaces a lot more. That's something we're seeing.
Yeah, these have been great examples, and Sara, you started off with that when Bobby first began, you were going to tell us a little bit more. So are there other things people are looking for? Bobby, you keep nodding. I'm not sure if you have anything to add or got excited, but I can say that I've seen these happening, in the architecture world. We see people looking for these things or desiring them in their homes. So yeah, are there any additional things people might be looking for in a community, the home? Before we just move on to some more questions. So
yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, it's interesting to also watch what cities are doing. When you start talking about here in Houston, I've had a chance to travel quite a bit lately, and a lot of cities are investing into parks, big time, right? And so Sara, I'm nodding my head out of agreeing with everything that she was saying is spot on. And again, I had to say it's also very intriguing to watch, how social we are as people, but how circumstances and events could change. I see, I don't know if that's 125 outdoors, and it talked about, data and it being updated. And that depends on the data set. So my answer to that, I know with us and the variety of providers that we use for our different data sources, you have some that can update every 15 to 25 minutes, and you have some that it could be quarterly, or annually, because when you think about how slow things could change in the community in terms of that type of data, it just depends on the data. But there are a lot of extenuating factors and things pandemic that can accelerate and catapult things forward.
Right.
And it could change the whole trajectory of our lives and the way we've done and do things. And so it's real interesting to watch.
Yeah, just like you guys. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh,
Sarah.
I was just going to say, I just saw that question. Sorry, I have to monitor the chat better. But I agree, it depends on the data set. I think, unfortunately, one of the questions I get a lot is like specifically around our restaurants and retail, because there have been a lot of things that have closed, and so that data, you're really looking to have that be as updated as possible, and we're updating that at least once a month right now. But the other thing I would say is, because we sort of have these two different sides, like people who are using our data to make larger investment decisions, and then we have like over 5 million monthly users looking at our data on the consumers facing side, and they're giving us feedback. So if we're not catching a restaurant closure somehow in our data updates, we're also having people who are home searching going, actually that's closed, and then we can update it that way too. So there's just like a whole variety of ways to update that, but I think that's been one that people are really hyper aware of lately.
Yeah, like you said, the data, the different categories, they change at different rates, and monitoring it is different. And, any sort of event can trigger a change in behavior, right? Or a change in need. So it's kind of amazing how your platforms are designed to really adapt to those changing landscapes.
Yep.
It's exciting to see how they continue to evolve. Let's see, on that, data is so important in helping deliver the right housing solution to the right people at the right time, as we're kind of all discussing already. So how can home builders, developers, architects, and others learn about the search patterns in the markets that they serve and use that data, the data provided by your companies, to refine their own offerings?
That's a good question.
I want to go into this one because I wasn't necessarily anticipating talking about this in this conversation, but we're kind of, if we think about our roadmap at Local Logic right now, a lot of the insights we're providing are kind of a snapshot, like a snapshot today. And it's interesting because I think that the commercial real estate industry really looks at comps or comparable properties when they're kind of making decisions as a snapshot of what's there today. But that's not necessarily the best way of thinking about it, because if you're building something, when is it actually going to deliver? When are you actually going to be selling it or leasing it up? There's a lead time to that. And so what we're doing right now is working on first starting to be able to actually expose historic trends in how things change, and not just demographic patterns, but our location scores. Because I think what we're doing with our AI and machine learning is understanding what are the actual factors that are driving value and change in a neighborhood over time. And so to be able to say, maybe I'm looking at a map, I want to understand where there's been, a lot of coffee shops opening recently, in conjunction with maybe a sharp increase in people with a certain education level, or, just different, signals that things are going to change. Because deciding today based on a static snapshot of what's happening at a site is not necessarily what you should be building for or what you should be preparing for. Yeah. So I think being able to use that data and machine learning to actually project
a little forecasting
change over time. Yeah, I think that's really where we're trying to get with our offerings.
Yeah, to build a big enough data source that you can, make assumptions about, when that new real estate project or architectural project is done 3 years from now, does it have the longevity and the legacy nature to sustain the changing environment for the real estate market?
Well, and I think also like looking at just the supply and demand balance, you know, like what other
Yeah.
projects are going to be delivering around that time, and like what is demand actually going to look like in that area at that moment, I think is really important to understand. And maybe at like a more micro level, I find using our data to inform like the architectural programming of individual assets to be super fascinating, because, you know, if we can tell you that there is a real like gap in this submarket for coffee shops or grocery stores or, you know, X kind of retail, like, or park space, like, how does that inform the developer's decision of like, what do I need to include on this site that would just really be a game changer in value and like actually drive
improve the
leads?
quality of life for the entire neighborhood or town by making those smart decisions on their next development project.
I think
really
it
make an
helps,
impact.
in my own neighborhood, I was in a neighborhood meeting until very late last night. I like can't escape this kind of conversation, but like, I think it helps inform those kind of conversations. Like, what if you had data as a developer or home builder and you knew, like, if I go to the neighborhood or I go to the city and I'm offering to add a park, like, and that was what they really wanted there, like that could just smooth that conversation so much more.
Absolutely.
So anyway,
it's really incredible being able to find those needs in a market and fill them so that they have better community retention. You know, people want to buy there, build there, stay there, you know, raise their family, start their business, whatever it may be, and have that be a success. So that's really powerful data. Bobby, do you have anything to add to this topic?
Yeah, again, and you know, and this is, you know, with DOS being consumer facing and you know, what's in our development roadmap, especially when you start talking about new communities, right? You know, it may be a community and there may not be enough information about the amenities of the community, how many houses that are being built, how can I get educated about it? Because I may not want to walk into the sales office. I may not want to deal with a salesperson just yet. I don't want to, you know, I just want to ask information. I don't want to feel
there, not ready.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like walking into the store and they said, "Hey, ma'am, how you doing? And are you looking for anything?" And you say, "Nope, I'm just looking." Right. And then
browsing.
once you decide that you want something, you point at the blouse up on the top rack. Right. But kind of the same thing with this experience with DOS building, again, this intelligent user interface, which is the reason why we chose this interface. I have to be very clear when I make this statement. It's unlike a lot of our competitors, and I'm talking about, search engines and stuff. Our objective, DOS doesn't sell data. So we don't sell data to agents. We use the data to best serve the consumer and the agent, right? So, and so when you start talking about with builders, one of the things that we're going to do in our developmental roadmap is that we could actually build out a Q&A with builders about this new development. And so I could literally do things like, "Hey, DOS, I only want to see said builder's house in this city up under this price with these amenities."
Interesting.
And then I could even engage again, we're talking about an Alexa-like, preferably I would rather say a Google Assistant like, because we just received an investment from Google. So probably the first real estate search engine in history to ever now be backed by Google. But so with that being said, but how do we give this intuitive experience to be able to collect more data in order to best serve the consumer and give them rich data and information, but to also be to collect that or allow that builder, right, to be able to best understand insights when people don't even really know through their exchange how they're teaching us to best serve them.
Right. In the questions they ask, the way they ask them, and all of that, sort of gathering that, hey, you know, we're learning that people are asking more and more of these types of questions.
There you go.
And they're stressing this component of the question. So our machine learning is is adapting to and teaching us that people are looking for X or Y or
Exactly.
Yes.
And so I may end up having that insight, which allows me to create a better, more efficient product, right? It may not be in this development, but I now have the foresight based on the data in the input, right? So I know and see what to do for the next, and or it could serve as it's great for customer service, for that builder. But the objective is to make everybody more efficient and better automate all of our experiences with this new interface. That's why at DOS, again, we're taking the approach, and we kind of have this first movers advantage of being able to speak, text, or type different from our competitors, but that's a graphical user interface where you could only check boxes and type in a rectangular box that says input this information. We want to better engage because the more humanistic that experience and the more we're able to best mobilize information, it feels more natural, which means that I'm more likely to engage with it.
Right. And it doesn't feel like you're being led, right? You're not being, select from these options. You're actually given the opportunity to say, what do I want and what do I need, without kind of being, I don't know, directed. I'm not finding the right word, but I think you understand what I'm trying to ask.
And that's spot on, because human behavior is very interesting. We're easily able to say what we don't want and like, than we are to say, this is what I want and what I like. And so if I have to start my search that way, then let me start that way. Like you said, to be directed or led, or if I want to start this way, and my search isn't so dyslexic,
it doesn't start with these categories. I can start wherever I want.
Exactly.
Right? And do I really want a kitchen with white cabinets, like you mentioned before?
Exactly.
Or is it going to be the money category? Versus your brain can go what your needs are prioritized.
I want it. We're creating something that will be fluid to me, Bobby Bryant. Don't treat me in this general cesspool of everybody else. I want this technology to be intuitive for
what you need, what your family needs, what your friends need. Not what Sara needs, not what I need. What does Bobby need?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, we have a couple of different ways of doing that. And I'm just like a super visual person. So I love our maps, to be able to just put those things that I care about.
Yes, exactly.
In a super objective way, not how, I think, just in my CRE background, the old school way is the broker is telling the client, this is what the area feels like. These are the things you should care about. But to be able to just objectively use data to be like, no, this is the vibe. And these are the things that I care about contributing my lifestyle, and seeing that visually. But then one of the other ways we do it is you can choose those things. And if you're a little bit more, I guess, numbers oriented, create your own personal score basically of every listing to help you understand. There's just so many different ways. I think one of the things Bobby kept saying that in my mind, I was like, yes, it's not just dumping data on people. People don't need data to make more decisions. They need easy to understand insights. Tell me what I should be taking from this data in a very clear, objective way. I think that's super important.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, and Blair, I'm sorry if we're getting further away from your original question.
I think that's why we have these conversations, right?
Yes.
They evolve, just like you want your technology to evolve, right?
Exactly.
Our needs, our wants, and our conversations evolve. So keep going, Bobby. I think unless Betsy tells us to go to the next question, I
feel like Betsy came on to be like, and we have 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Exactly.
Exactly. And
Go ahead.
Right. And the thing is I will say it's real interesting to even what Sara just mentioned is that we were talking to one of the engineers and developers at Google who's helping us out. And he was just like, I want to say, hey, DOS, what's the best house for me? Mm-hmm. See, these new ways people can shop. But to Sara's point, if I went over here and created this real cool profile setup, and I was able to say everything that I want, right? it could be to going back to Blair. I want a new house. I want new construction. I want modern house. I mean, a builder who believes in technology, efficiency, and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? My budget, because we do this for rentals, but we don't do it for purchases. And you know what? My budget, I don't need my mortgage payment over $3,000 a month. Like, what if I can search that way? We have to kind of change the way we're searching and the dynamic of that, because people want to interact humanly with our technology. How can I do that? Hey, Doss, show me all the properties within $3,000 a month. We provide these calculators, right? But we don't use that as a search feature. How can I engage the way I want to shop on my budget? Because I'm gonna go to the mortgage guy or gal, and they're gonna say, hey, you can afford a $500,000 house. I don't want that. I just want a $3,000 payment. We always are pre-approved for more than we want to pay. So let me search based on how I want to pay.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just saw a question. There's a couple of questions coming in the chat, but what were you going to say, Betsy?
Oh, I was just going to read those questions to you.
Oh,
so we had the same thought. We do have 10 minutes left. We'll wrap up a couple minutes early. There's a question in here. And there's a couple of questions in here. If you have any additional questions, please put them in here in the chat now. But this was from a little while ago, and I believe this is for you, that says, can you use your local scores to drive the direction of a community via economic development planning? Like, is anyone going to a city and saying, hey, we're looking to, or here's data of what's going on, and will you partner with us on this development, for example?
I love this question like so much, because I was an economic developer for a while. So I feel like this person doesn't know that maybe, but I really love this. So, you know, we were founded by urban planners. Like, this is exactly the kind of partnership we want to be facilitating, because you can see visually, especially within our local analytics platform, like, are there areas of the city that are not being served by parks, by transportation? Are there food deserts happening? You know, like, we talk about trying to use data to actually make cities that serve communities better. And this is a way of addressing that kind of equity of services and access to things by actually using objective data to map that out and start allowing cities to make decisions about what they need in certain locations. But I think that also helps inform the discussions that they're having with investors and developers that are coming to them to get projects approved. Like, it's a negotiating point. Hey, we really need X if we're going to approve this project. I know in my past life, I worked on a project in Atlanta where it created a whole new bus rapid transit line to serve a neighborhood that really needed that. And I think the other side of that is sort of larger scale economic development, where you're doing corporate site selection. And when companies are coming to look to relocate to a city, and they can see, like, can my employees afford to live here? Like, what is the average cost of housing in this area? Or like, what part of town is going to be the cool part of town where I'm going to be able to actually attract the talent that I need? All of that, it's all like basically the same data sets. It's just a different way of looking at it. So short answer is yes, we can totally facilitate that. And I could talk about that for a very long time if you ever want to.
We do have another question, but I want to make sure that one thing that Bobby and I talked about the other day gets addressed, because we're looking, as we said earlier, at attainability. And a lot of times it's how can we get the cost of the actual construction down, or how can we get some of the land associated costs. But I thought one of the things that you guys are doing that's super interesting is the focus on getting the transaction process to cost less. And one thing that jumped out at me, because I'm starting to do my pre-planning and searching for dog-friendly neighborhoods and so forth, was the rebate that you say you guys are going to offer to consumers, up to $5,000. So, can you imagine how much more buying power that might give someone if they get that rebate? So if you could just give us a quick snapshot of how that works, because I think that might help bring some housing into reach of more consumers and give us a bigger target audience of people moving forward.
Yeah, interesting question, and thanks. When we first started this journey, our objective was just to be a search, marketplace. And during that journey, we started realizing that we wanted to be more than that we wanted to be different, really different than our competitors, and be able to impact price, right? That in order to impact pricing, that we have to control the entire end-to-end experience, meaning that we have to be the place where they first come to control the eyeballs and search, but we have to take them through that journey and also have agents on the ground that believe what we believe and extend the services physically that the consumer seeing digitally, right? And so with that being said, at DOS, we do, again, you heard me say earlier, our mission is to make homeownership in America more affordable in my intro. Well, one of the ways of doing that for buyers is we do give a 1% buyer rebate up to $5,000. Everything is time and money. So what does that mean is that a buyer, now that everybody can get online and help us search for a property, if they look at 15 or less properties, we will give them a 1% rebate. If that property is $300,000, that means that $3,000 will be credited towards their closing costs that they could use to make that more economical for them. Not that they necessarily need it, but they could take that $3,000 that they would have spent and use that to go paint or do some of the deferred maintenance in the home. If they look at more than 15 houses, we don't take away the rebate, it just reduces down to a fixed $500. And so at least that could maybe cover the cost of appraisal or inspection, right? But time is money, right? And we do understand that. And we're asking the agent to participate in this win-win scenario. And so that's how that works. We do give that buyer rebate, and it doesn't have to be a DOS listing. It could be any property for sale on the ground, and we will extend that opportunity to the consumer.
And just to clarify, by look at, you mean physically go to. So the days they need to take advantage of the search functionality to make the best decisions and screen things before they go there, which means then they're not using as much time of a realtor or a builder to go visit that property as well.
Exactly. We start getting up to 40, 50 showings. It just doesn't make sense for you. And so we want to gauge it. And here's the beauty of it is we looked at the national average, and the national average, believe it or not, is 10 to 12 houses. Right? We bumped it up to 15, right? We want to be fair. We want to help people. That's the whole purpose of it. We have a go-giver mentality, believing that by extending that and having our mission, that we'll be able to touch and help more people with that option.
And then in those cases, mostly we're in new construction. Might be the spec homes that a builder is offering that they could put on your site. And I think you told me that was for free as well.
Yeah, so we have an opportunity for builders, production and spec builders that are building at least 25 or more houses that they're going to list with us, and meaning that we will totally waive the listing fee. They need to provide us all the pictures and all the data and details of the property, but it's a volume grab, admittedly so. So we're not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but what is different and unique about that, we're probably one of the first brands that at the brand level is saying, hey, every builder throughout the country, we're willing to work with you. If you're a production or spec builder, we will list your properties for free. Just give us this, that, and the other, and let's get it on the MLS.
Cool. Very cool. So we've got 1 minute left. So I want to make sure that I share with you guys kind of what's coming up next. But if you had other questions that you wanted to ask them, everyone, I think Blair had a conflict for later, but I believe Sara and Bobby will be back with us when we do our open discussion later in the day. And if you're not able to catch up with them then, and you have another question that you want to get answered, we've got their LinkedIn information. I did put Sara's email here since she put it directly in her presentation. And if Blair and Bobby, if you're comfortable with it, we can float your emails out in case anyone wants to reach out to you as well.
That's
We'd be
great.
happy to do
Sounds
that.
great.